Well, welcome back to Bible class. We're glad that you're here with us. We're studying the book of Habakkuk. We studied Nahum in this quarter as well. We're coming down the home stretch of this short little book, 3 chapters. We're in chapter 2, verses 11 through 20 in our lesson today. We're talking about God responding to Habakkuk's second complaint, his second request or question, whatever you want to call it. Ultimately, it was a complaint. And God starts to talk about the destruction of Babylon. And he begins in verse 11. He picks up where we left off last week. For the stone will cry out from the wall, and the beam from the timbers will answer it. There are witnesses to what's going to happen to Babylon. People will tell the tale of this destruction. Woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed, who establishes a city by iniquity. God would destroy every city, every stone of this city. He's going to take care of it. And I want you to stop for a minute, because we as Americans need to take verse 12 to heart. Woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed. Violence is never right. It's never acceptable in the eyes of God. But bloodshed, how many towns have been built on bloodshed? How many people have made their living by killing innocent people? Babies. You think of the destruction that it takes to run these abortion clinics. And we're told in verse 12, woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed, who establishes a city by iniquity. God would destroy every city. He would destroy every stone. Behold, it is not of the Lord of hosts that the peoples labor to feed the fire, and nations weary themselves in vain. You're working so hard, Babylon, and for what? Things that wouldn't last? Again, there's another good lesson for us as Americans and as Christians. What are we working hard for? Are we working hard to make sure that our families and our children are safe in the arms of Jesus, and that they're ready to meet their Maker? Or are we trying so hard to get all this stuff? Don't get me wrong. We're in the process right now of trying to get out of debt. We're so close. We're down the home stretch. We've got about a year left. And I'm looking forward to not having any debt outside of our house. But that's not the goal of my life, is to be debt-free, though that will be a wonderful blessing. The goal of my life is to get to heaven and to get my family to heaven. And Babylon worked so hard, but it wouldn't last. You know, you can try to keep a fire going as long as possible. Eventually, the fire dies out. Life is but a vapor, James would tell us. It's here and it vanishes in the next instant. Habakkuk 2:14 says, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Why? Either God is going to be acknowledged or men are going to die. The choice has to be made. What's going to happen? Where will we stand? Verse 15 says, woe to him who gives drink to his neighbor, pressing him to your bottle, even to make him drunk, that you may look on his nakedness. You are filled with shame instead of glory. You also drink and be exposed as uncircumcised. The cup of the Lord's right hand will be turned against you, and utter shame will be on your glory. Well, you want to get drunk and commit fornication, essentially God's saying, okay, well, there are consequences for that, and the consequences are coming. They'll be here soon. For the violence, verse 17, done to Lebanon will cover you, and the plunder of beasts which made them afraid, because of men's blood and the violence of the land and the city, and of all who dwell in it. Beautiful Lebanon, totally destroyed. Its magnificent cedars cut down, and even the animals were needlessly destroyed, and Lebanon never recovered. But this was about to catch up with Babylon. The last 3 verses here, we begin in verse 18. It says, what profit is the image, that its maker should carve it, the molded image, a teacher of lies, that the maker of its mold should trust in it, to make mute idols? Images teach falsehood by promising what they cannot produce. A graven image is made of wood. A molten image is made of metals. Jeremiah 50:38, Isaiah 44:9 through 20. Habakkuk 2:19 says, woe to him who says to wood, awake, to silent stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, yet in it there is no breath at all. If you want idolatry, Go ahead. There will be a problem, though. You see, something that we don't really focus on as human beings as much as we should is that God gives us free will. God's telling the Israelites through Habakkuk, you want to do these things, it's your choice. It's your right as a human being to make this decision, but that doesn't mean there won't be consequences for it. It's my right to break the law. It doesn't mean there won't be consequences for it. It's my right to do fill in the blank, anything. It doesn't mean I won't have to pay for it. And sadly, many of the times when we talk about people making bad decisions, they are going off of an assumption that they don't have to pay for their mistakes. God says something different. You want to live it up? You want to sin it up? Okay. But there will be problems. There will be consequences. Verse 20 says, the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Listen to God or practice all of these things. You got to choose. No matter what, the Lord is in his holy temple. This is the answer to Habakkuk's question. If you want to go to heaven, we need to be quiet and listen to God. God is basically saying to Habakkuk, Habakkuk, they've chosen this for themselves. I'm not just punishing them because I think it'd be fun. They've chosen this. You want idolatry? You want fornication? There are consequences for that. This is a key verse. The Lord is in his holy temple. You know, no matter what the world does, no matter what laws we pass, no matter who we elect, no matter what we do, God's still in control. Man, we need to remember that more. Daniel knew that in Daniel chapter 5. The Lord rules in the kingdoms of men. Why should I be afraid? I'm not saying don't be concerned about the state of our country. It is concerning. I'm not saying we don't try to cultivate change. We should try to cultivate change. But I'll be honest with you, who we have elected over the last several years and the last several decades in this country, in part, has led us to where we are now. And it's not just one president. It's not just the last two presidents. It's all the presidents that have been elected. Ultimately, to put my trust into a man in office instead of the Lord is futile. It won't work. But I can take solace and take, comfort in the fact that no matter who is in office, whether I like the person or I don't like the person, whether I agree with their morals or I don't, I can know that God's in control. And Habakkuk is being told, no matter who has control over the nation of Israel, I'm still in my temple. So let all the earth keep silence before me. Whether they choose to do that or not is up to the people. But God is still in control. Man, I needed to hear that here in this time. I needed to be reminded of that. That, man, this world's messed up, but God's still in control. And I serve a God that has promised me, and he's promised you, that he won't leave me or forsake me. Whether that happens is up to you and me. But we would be leaving God, not the other way around. Next week, we will cover the entirety of chapter 3 together, and I want to thank you for studying with us, and Lord willing, we'll see you again next week for Habakkuk chapter 3.